Hello, I'm Siobhan Heaney. Welcome to the Culture Quarter. This episode is all about survival in extreme places and the way history and art have recorded those tales of survival. First up, Frank Hurley, an adventurer who's well known for his photographs in Antarctica. But he also took some equally amazing photos in an equally inhospitable place, the mountains of Papua New Guinea in the 1920s. The work was difficult, it was dangerous, and for many years it's remained largely hidden away. Kathleen Dyatt has more.
In 1921, a photographer travelled to the Australian colony of Papua to capture something extraordinary.
I can't imagine what it would have been like going there in the 1920s, but it would have been extremely confronting and, challenging.
It was no mean feat for Sydney-born Frank Hurley. He lugged his camera over Papua's rugged landscape and processed negatives in local river water.
He went over as part of, sponsored by missionaries, Anglican missionaries. There were two expeditions in the 1920s. But the majority of these images just represent the people themselves.
The gaze is penetrating, revealing the lives and culture of the people of Papua and the influence of colonial rule. Several years after the expeditions, Hurley sold his negatives and slides.
They form a collection of over 800 glass slides, and many of these images had not been seen before or exhibited before until the Australian Museum developed this exhibition, so we're very pleased to have it here in Canberra.
While Hurley was capturing history in Papua, significant events were unfolding around the world, including Hitler's rise to power. The images are a surprising addition to Hurley's achievements behind the lens during his 60-year career.
It really represents part of Hurley's career that is not well known. Everybody knows his photographs from Antarctica and his World War I images. They're quite iconic.
A different view of one of Australia's best-loved photographers and a valuable insight into the past.
Historians have always been fascinated by the tale of the mutiny on the Bounty. For Captain Bligh's version of events, they've turned to a water-splash diary that he kept during an epic open-sea voyage after he was cast adrift with 18 other men. A new book published by the National Library has used this diary to examine his character. Captain William Bligh spared no disparaging detail in describing his nemesis, Chief Mutineer Fletcher Christian.
He is subject to violent perspiration, and particularly in his hands, so that he soils anything he handles.
It's the first diary entry he made after being cast out to sea in a longboat with 18 men and hardly any food. The Fraser government paid $73,000 for this weathered treasure in 1976, and ever since historians have read it at the National Library in an effort to decode the man who went on to become the governor of colonial New South Wales.
Leadership was not really his strong point. His deepest nature was probably reclusive and scholarly.
The Bounty voyage set out to transplant breadfruit from the Pacific to the West Indies. It was thought the Pacific fruit could feed the slave population of the Caribbean. But setting sail after a languid stay in Tahiti, the crew rebelled. Despite losing control of the Bounty, Bligh expertly led 18 hungry, exhausted men through treacherous conditions until they reached safe harbour in Timor 47 days later. This diary is a record of that miserable journey, weather observations, calculations of rations, and even the odd prayer.
O Lord, our Heavenly Father, Almighty and everlasting God. It is extraordinary to think of it literally, as he described it, kept in his bosom, against his chest, sort of as the waves are crashing over the boat.
A scholar by nature, Bligh even made detailed observations of the surrounding environment.
He takes the time out in writing this little tiny book to chart the islands of Fiji. for the first time. Nobody had done that before.
Which makes this salt-soaked piece of history a talisman of treachery and triumph. As conflict rages in modern-day Libya, it's worth remembering another brutal battle that took place there 70 years ago. The Australian War Memorial is putting on display some rarely seen artefacts from Tobruk to mark 7 decades since the famous World War II campaign. 14,000 Australians lived and 800 died defending the desolate outpost against the Nazis. It was protracted trench warfare in inhospitable terrain.
The dust, the sandstorms, getting bombed by enemy aircraft.
All in a bid to hold on to a small harbour town called Tobruk in Libya, the last bastion keeping the Germans from advancing into Egypt. The Australians were ordered by the British to hold on for 2 months. They held on for 8, demonstrating what the Germans called cunning fighting skills.
We just lived in holes in the ground and it was filthy sand. We had sand in our mouths, we had sand in our food, we had sand in our clothes.
They were called rats by the German propagandists, and rather than taking this as an insult, with defiant pride, they took it on as a badge of honour.
800 Australians were killed, among them Jack Edmondson, who saved the life of his officer in close combat but was severely wounded and died soon after. This photo was taken the day before the 26-year-old was mortally wounded. He was awarded the Victoria Cross for his bravery, but his parents, Maud and Joseph, never recovered from the loss of their only child.
Later on, Maud put together a scrapbook as a tribute to his deeds and activities. But she does make the quote that, all these things, all these accolades and honours are fantastic, but they don't bring me back my son.
There are objects used to pass the time in the desert, a soldier's violin, playing cards and journals. This diarist wrote letters to his father and the 2 men played chess by correspondence at the rate of 1 move per letter.
We got 1 bottle of water per day, besides a spot of tea. It's always warm and tastes very brackish. The longing for something cool or cold is maddening.
Though it's a milestone in Australian military history, most of these artefacts are rarely on display. The show will run until November, bringing the desert and the dust of Tobruk back to life. Well, that's almost all for this episode, but before we go, here's something that's not to be missed. These incredible images were taken by photographer Gary Ramage in Afghanistan. The soundtrack is a Johnny Cash song that's played on high rotation by the troops when they're out on patrol. I'm Siobhan Hinu, and I'll catch you next time on the Culture Quarter.
And I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder. One of the 4 beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse.
There's a man going round taking names, and he decides who to free and who to blame. Everybody won't be treated all the same. There'll be a golden ladder reaching down when the man comes around. The hairs on your arm will stand up at the terror in each sip and in each sup. Will you partake of that last offered cup, or disappear into the potter's ground when the man comes around? Hear the trumpets, hear the pipers, 100 million angels singing. Multitudes are marching to the big kettle drum. Voices calling, voices crying. Some are born and some are dying. It's Alpha and Omega's kingdom come. And the whirlwind is in the thorn tree. virgins are all trimming their wicks. The whirlwind is in the thorn tree. It's hard for thee to kick against the pricks. Till Armageddon, no shalom, no shalom. Then the father hen will call his chickens home. The wise men will bow down before the throne, and at his feet they'll cast their golden crowns when the man comes around. Whoever is unjust, let him be unjust still. Whoever is righteous, let him be righteous still. Whoever is filthy, let him be filthy still. Listen to the words long written down when the man comes around. Hear the trumpets, hear the pipers, 100 million angels singing. Multitudes are marching to the big kettle drum. Voices calling, voices crying. Some are born and some are dying. It's Alpha and Omega's kingdom come. And the whirlwind is in the thorn tree. The virgins are all trimming their wicks. The whirlwind is in the thorn tree. It's hard for thee to kick against the pricks. In measured 100-weight and penny pound, when the man comes around. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts, and I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him.